Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Ficarelli-Halpern. Welcome to another segment of the Cabin Fever Artist Talks made by the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey. It's a series of informal artist talks, and I'm thrilled to be part of this series among so many of my talented and distinguished colleagues. I'd like to start by just giving you a little bit of an overview about my process and my inspirations in case you are unfamiliar with my work. I'm very inspired by historical art. So I'm primarily an oil painter. I enjoy taking aspects of the traditional classical motifs that are found in Baroque, Rococo art, particularly the Baroque Dutch art of the 17th century and French Rococo art of the 18th century, and infusing it with a bit of irony, if you will, and contemporary elements, motifs and objects, adornments that we are currently interested in our contemporary society. When COVID-19 hit, I realized that I had to get some message out there. I had to stop what I was currently working on and create some new work that really expressed my feelings and my situation. I wanted to use a more immediate media than oil paint. For me, with my process, it often takes me a very long time to finish a painting, and I wanted to use materials that would allow me to create something more quickly. So I looked around my studio at what I had. I was thinking about using water-based media, and I found several of these very nice watercolor canvases. So I purchased them a long time ago and forgot that I had them. They're very nice to work with, and they accept all kinds of water-based media. They are sort of a fabric that is stretched and stapled on a wood frame, similar to other supports that you would use for oil or acrylic painting. So I decided to use water-based media. In terms of my inspiration for the pandemic artwork, I went back to a very humble object that we are now all wearing, which is this little mask, which, I find irony is something that comes into my work a lot. And I just find it very ironic that no matter how technologically evolved we are now in the year 2020, it's this little object, this little accessory that we're supposed to wear, and it is supposed to protect us the best. So actually, what's interesting, and this connects also to the way that I work and my process, is the mask is a historic object, accessory for the prevention of airborne disease. Masks were worn quite widely about 100 years ago during the Spanish flu pandemic. So here are some images from the time, just to show you people wearing masks during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. Here are nurses and people wearing masks. Actually, people put masks on their pets as well. Children wearing masks, and here's a newspaper of the time of DIY masks for prevention of influenza. If we go back even further in history to the plague during the Middle Ages and Renaissance, masks were worn by what were called plague doctors. There was an actual outfit that the entire body of the doctor would wear, a gown and a head covering and mask with a very long beak. The long beak was intended to provide some social distancing for the doctor and the infected person. Plague masks were also adopted not just for use by doctors, but also in a more decorative way during the Venetian Carnival. And many decorative masks were created in this theme. So for my new work, my pandemic work, I drew my inspiration from this particular point in history, the plague mask, but also from more art historical portraits, Renaissance portraits in profile by famous Italian Renaissance artists. Piero della Francesca's portrait of the Duke of Urbino, Jacopo Ligozzi's Head of a Woman, Masaccio's Young Man in a Turban, and Piero di Cosimo's portrait of Simonetta Vespucci. So it was those different references, art historical references, that came together to inspire my series of pandemic portraits. I'd like to show you the portraits now. Here is pandemic portrait Jersey City and pandemic portrait New York City. These are ink and gouache and watercolor on the watercolor canvas. If you recall from the historical references that I showed you a few moments ago, in these historic references, there's very often a little landscape in the background. So these two portraits are separated by the Hudson River. And for my second pair, I chose the River Seine in Paris. So here is the pandemic portrait right bank and pandemic portrait left bank. Again, these are gouache watercolor on watercolor canvas. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much to the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey for inviting me to participate in the Cabin Fever Artist series. I wish everyone continued good health. Please stay safe in these uncertain and turbulent times. Thank you.